Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of In the City con Cristi, where we are continuing to meet all the incredible people that make up the greatest place to live, work, learn, and play, Doral. Today, we have one of our very own from right here inside City Hall. Our Director of Code Compliance, Edgard Estrada, is with us. We're going to be talking about a lot of questions that residents have regarding what does code compliance do, and if you're a business owner that has met one of our code compliance directors, why? Or one of our code compliance employees, team members, why have you met them? So, Edgar, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So the idea of our podcast is to be able to inform people what we're doing here in City Hall. Not only what happens inside City Hall, but what's happening in our community. Business leaders, education leaders, members of our community. We've had students on. The idea is for people to get to know why Doral is so special. And one of the most important parts of that is what we do inside City Hall to help our residents, to provide service to our residents and to our business community. Code compliance plays a big part of that, right? And we want to hear more about code compliance, what it is that the department does. Some people maybe don't understand. And I get a lot of questions, obviously, as you know, because I forward a lot of emails to you. Mm-hmm. We get a lot of residents or business owners that reach out to say, I had a code compliance officer come by and for XYZ reason, and how can I help, how can I solve my problem, or why is it that we're getting these visits? So
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your role in code compliance, and you've been with the city now for quite some time.
Yeah, 14 years.
14 years, so that's
flown.
that's crazy.
It's really gone fast.
Yes.
So code compliance, I'll be the first one to tell you. I didn't even know what code compliance was when I first started in Doral.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that we're a big necessity in the community because we do maintain the health, safety, welfare, property values as well for the community. But a lot of people don't really know what it is that we do.
Right.
So when I started 14 years ago, I started in the Parks Department.
Mm-hmm.
But something piqued my interest in code enforcement. And code enforcement and code compliance are both used interchangeably.
Right, I was just going to say that after your comments, is that some cities call code compliance code enforcement.
Yeah.
For us, is we want you to be compliant. We don't want to have to come enforce. We want you to comply.
Correct. Yeah, it's a little bit of a more soft approach,
Right.
More customer-friendly
Yep.
approach for our businesses and properties. But, what I like to compare what we do a lot is we're the property managers for the city.
Mm-hmm.
So we maintain pretty much anything that you can think of when you're driving out there on the road. Anything that might be overgrown, your grass, trees, landscaping, all the way down to construction permits. We make sure
Right.
that things are being done correctly, that any construction that is being performed by your neighbor or a commercial property, that they've taken the steps to get a building permit. That's the way that the city ensures that whatever construction project is being done correctly, it's being done safely. And at the end of the day, our main mission is to maintain the safety for the community.
Right, which is so important. There's a couple of hot topics mostly that we hear about, and you get the messages from me all the time in the city, and that your department is in charge of. And that's one of the things is short-term rentals,
Mm-hmm.
or houses that maybe are being rented for like Airbnb and things like
Sure.
that. So that's obviously something that we've faced as a community, as many communities have. It's
Mm-hmm.
part of the growth, and
Sure.
and now new industries coming in and things like that. And obviously, it's against our code
Mm-hmm.
to rent homes for short term for many reasons. So tell me a little bit about what active steps your department has taken to try and not only educate, right? Because I think a big part of code compliance is also the education component, which we'll talk a little bit about the Mayor Citizens Academy, which your department runs.
Yes.
But it's a big education component, which for me is super important in the community, because we can't expect people to comply with something that they don't know about.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about that particular issue, since it's something we hear a lot about in the community, what the department has done to address this and make sure that we're doing our best as a city
Sure.
to minimize it.
Now, one thing that I think is very important to note when it comes to short-term rental is that the city of Doral was able to get an ordinance in 2012. And I think it was maybe like a day before the state of Florida preempted enforcement to the state. So any city that tries to pass an ordinance today,
Right, wouldn't be able to.
regulating short-term rentals, won't be able to. So we were very lucky in that regard back in 2012. So it's just like you mentioned. We're code compliance. We take a more educational approach to the enforcement of codes. Obviously, we have to issue violations. We have to get our message across, but we like to speak to communities, to the residents, to businesses, and short-term rentals in particular. It's very important for communities to be aware that this is taking place without their knowledge.
Right.
So we get a lot of referrals from the community, from neighbors. For the most part, when Doral is 99% gated communities. I think there's
Right.
only one community in the city that is not a part of an HOA or some kind of association.
Right.
So when you move into a community, you have to go through background checks. So what happens with these Airbnbs? People are moving in, even if it's just for a weekend. There's a constant turnover of residents. You don't know who's going in next door.
Right.
Next weekend it's going to be somebody else. There's an increased demand for services, garbage. There's parties, loud noise. So it definitely impacts the community.
Our quality of life.
And just general overall quality of life, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important for us to take a bit of a harder stance when
A
it comes to
proactive approach, too.
Definitely. So there's a number of ways that we're made aware of this. One is referrals that come from the community. They reach out to our department. We have, because of our very customer-friendly approach, we have a good relationship with most of the major property managers in the city. So they have a good communication with us, and they'll let us know whenever there's some kind of suspicious activity taking place in a particular property.
Right.
So a lot of times it's really just the old-fashioned knocking on the door.
Right.
We knock on the door, we ask, we have to let people know why we're there,
Right.
and we inform them that we're here for a short-term rental complaint. And a lot of times the guests, they don't know
Right.
that it's not allowed there.
Mhm.
So they'll tell us, yes, I'm here on a short-term basis, on vacation for the weekend. And then we initiate enforcement proceedings on that particular property, but it goes against the property owner and not against the tenant that's there.
Right. And what is that enforcement? What is the steps? Can you take us through the process?
Absolutely. So short-term rentals is a little bit different than our traditional code
Correct.
enforcement because, again, we take a little bit more of a harder stance when it comes to this type of activity just because of the quality of life impact
Right.
that it has on the community. So it's an initial citation of $500 to the property owner. So it's to the person that's doing the booking,
Right.
the owner of the property.
Right.
So after that, if it's not paid, then we have our special magistrate avenue where it's a quasi-judicial proceeding. It's like an informal court hearing.
Right.
And then it has to be paid, and if it's not, then a lien is placed on the property. And that's basically the ultimate penalty in code enforcement. It's placing a lien
Right.
on someone's property. And that affects a lot of property owners. No one wants to have a negative mark on their property.
Right.
But if you want to refinance, if you want to sell your property, and you have a lien on there, you're going to have a tough time.
Right. And $500 is the first instance.
Correct.
Second,
Second is $1,500.
and then it goes to 5,000.
Third is $5,000, and 4 or more is $7,500. So
Okay.
they get pretty hefty.
Yeah, they're aggressive, which is what we want because, again, it's about the quality of life. So that's wonderful. Let me ask you a question. What are we doing proactively? Because I know for a while we were using a program to find these properties besides waiting for the referral to come in, because that's something that I've
Correct.
talked about quite a bit. And how
Absolutely.
are we proactive in providing the service?
So technology can be your best friend. We had a service, and we're looking to kind of improve on that service as well.
Mhm.
So it's a service that it scours hundreds of short-term rental websites, Airbnb, VRBO, you name it. And there's a lot of them out there.
Yep.
So they have an algorithm. I'm not a tech guy, but they have some kind of algorithm where they can pinpoint what the
Right.
property is. And it gets photos from each of the listings. So what our officers do, we go out once we have a pinpointed address. We make sure to match the photos that are on the website to what's physically there, including on the interior. So once we gain access into a property with permission,
Right.
we compare the photos on the web posting, and once we confirm that, then we initiate the enforcement proceeding. And something that's important to note, you don't have, a person doesn't need to physically rent the property. Our ordinance states that just posting the property on a website for a short-term rental
is a violation.
Correct.
Right.
And is subject to a citation.
Right. And let me ask you this, because a lot of times people send me stuff and they're like, I'm afraid to send it. These complaints or referrals can come in anonymously.
So that's an interesting point, because in 2021, the state of Florida passed a law that prohibits anonymous complaints.
Damn, these preemption laws.
Yeah.
They're getting worse.
Yeah, so...
I have a bone to pick with the state this year. I'm going to be up in legislative session quite a bit, because the preemption is getting to the point where it's hard for us to legislate quality of life for our residents at the local level, and it's very frustrating from a local legislator's perspective, or someone who represents their city, to have to tell residents, I can't do anything, because that's not what a resident wants to hear from
Correct.
someone they elected to represent them.
Absolutely. And this applies to every single code enforcement department in the state of Florida. So it's not just to Doral or Miami-Dade County. This applies all over the state. And it's just code enforcement. So they no longer give us the authority to inspect anonymous complaints. You have to leave your name and your address unless there's an environmental or imminent threat to the public. That's the only time that
Wow.
we're able to...
I didn't realize that had changed.
Yep, in 2021.
Okay.
And we have seen
A decrease.
a decrease in complaints, because we have to...
Yeah, because
be
people are
forward.
afraid of retaliation.
Absolutely.
Rightfully so. I get
And
it.
happens.
So that's definitely a concern, and something that that I think, and I understand also hypothetically why it would be something that the state would want to say, we don't want anonymous complaints, because it can become cumbersome for the government if there's like a lot of anonymous complaints coming in that are frivolous and things like that, or it may be somebody retaliating against somebody else.
Correct, yeah.
So I understand it, but at the same time, they're sensitive subjects, right? And there are things that cost people money. So, but I think education is super important. We need to continue to educate the community. Code compliance is, I think, is a tool that we use to also continue to keep our city beautiful. And speaking of that, talking about our businesses a little bit, we have the Keep Doral Beautiful Award, which your department also handles.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about how businesses can look to be recognized under Keep Doral Beautiful. Every month we recognize a business in our community that has made a significant investment into the community to beautify their building. We also have a grant. It's our facade grant that businesses can apply for, and even HOAs can apply for, to enhance the aesthetics of the outside of their buildings. So as a community, we want to support these investments to continue to keep Doral pretty. And so tell us a little bit about Keep Doral Beautiful and that initiative.
Sure. So Keep Doral Beautiful, we're not looking to be the ticket givers every day.
Right.
We want to be able to recognize those property owners, and it's mainly meant for the commercial
Right.
properties that, just like you mentioned, have invested into their property to continue keeping in line with the vision of the city and the city council. So our officers are actually the ones who nominate these businesses, because they're the ones that are out there every single day in their areas. They know which properties may have even had a code violation.
Right.
Due to, you name it, dead landscaping, they had to repaint their walls. So it's also a good opportunity for businesses to be recognized after a code enforcement proceeding. And I particularly have great pride in being able to invite businesses that have done that great job, taking the extra step, always maintaining their properties, cutting their grass on a weekly basis, watering, installing new landscaping, and a lot of times it's voluntary. It's not even something that we're telling them, hey, you're going to get a violation if you don't do this or that. It's people that also take great pride. They know that they're in the city of Doral, which is a beautiful city, best city in Miami-Dade County.
Yeah.
If you ask me, and I'm sure if you ask a lot of people. So
We're not biased or anything.
No, not at all. But I know that they take great pride, and also being able to show the community that, hey, we're here, we want to look good for you guys. So
Right.
I take a lot of pride in being able to invite them in front of you every single month.
Yeah, that's great. And we see a lot of business owners really take pride in their buildings and in their properties, and investing into continuing to keep Doral beautiful. There's areas of our community that are older and can use that TLC, and so we want to incentivize those businesses to do that. Now, the code and compliance's goal is not to be out there, like you said, ticketing these businesses, but educating and making sure that they are keeping with life and safety, and making sure that quality of life is at the forefront, and that the city looks aesthetically pleasing.
Sure.
So I would like for you to talk to us a little bit about taking us through a process of a violation. Because a lot of times you guys go out and give a warning first, right?
Yep.
Before it becomes a real fine or violation, you're normally notified and given a certain amount of time for like to cure it, a curing period.
Absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about that and what steps or proactive steps your team is instructed to take, and what training they've gone through in being able to assist the community in understanding that sometimes business owner may not even know that they're violating a code, and even a homeowner may not know that they're violating a code.
Definitely. So all of our officers are trained through the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. They get, there's various levels, and they go through 3 of the 4 levels. And the city, we put them through that because we want to make sure that our officers are out there and that they know what they're doing. So when they're addressing something with a property, it's legitimate. So the code enforcement process typically works. There's not many ways to skin a cat in code enforcement.
Yeah.
If it's a violation, it's a violation, and it has to be addressed.
Right.
But we give courtesy warnings. They all start off with a courtesy warning. If it's something that can be addressed right then and there, like let's say you have a prohibited attention-getting device or a banner, something very temporary. You have a person flipping a sign for attention. That's against the city's code.
Right.
But that's something that's very easy to fix.
Right.
So we can go out there, speak to the person, they're gone. Quick and easy verbal warning. Something that might take a little bit more time. Say the grass is a little bit too high, and just for everyone's reference, too high is 8 inches.
Yeah,
8
it's
inches
not.
or higher. Yeah. We're not super nitpicky like that.
Yeah.
If it's something that.
We don't want it to look like an abandoned property.
Correct. Yeah. So if it's something like that, that takes a little bit more time. You have to call a landscaper,
Right.
or maybe you want to do it yourself. Your lawnmower's not working. You have to get it fixed. We typically give 10 to 15 days. We give a lot of discretion. Our officers, they use common sense. They use their judgment out there as well. But it's the issuance of a courtesy warning, and we give that reasonable amount of time. And that's something that's explicitly stated in the state statute that governs code enforcement, which is Chapter 162. And we have to give a reasonable amount of time for a property owner to comply with a violation. So if that deadline comes around and it's still, now the grass is not 8 inches, now it's 12 inches, then we give a notice of violation. And that's just another, it's a form, it is a penalty, however, there's no citation. And that's one thing I really want to stress. We're not in the business of making money.
Right.
We're here to improve the property values for the community. We want people to know, to be educated, and that's the main reason that we issue, for the most part, most of our violations are courtesy warning, notice of violation, and if you're showing good faith effort, we give up to 3 extensions as well. There's no cost, there's no fees associated with that, because at the end of the day, most people, they just don't know.
Right.
And we want to give you enough time.
Right.
If, let's say now the grass is 2 feet high, and that definitely creates issues for the community.
Right.
Because that can lead to rodents, infestation of pests. People can hide in there. You never know what
Right.
could happen. We have a special magistrate hearing, which is held once a month, the 3rd Thursday of each month. And it's a quasi-judicial proceeding where there's an impartial third party. It's a special magistrate that will hear our side of why we're there. The property owner or representative has their opportunity to also say why they're not in compliance, and then the judge will give his recommendation. And usually he'll give more time, and it's at that hearing where the first fine is usually imposed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that's like kind of like almost like a little court. People come in, they'll see it, it's like a little court, but it's an opportunity to present your case and
Correct.
ask. But like you said, this is not a money maker. We're not
No.
looking to impose fines purposely. It's rather that we're wanting people to comply with the code for the purposes of safety and quality of life and beautification of our community. There's 2 issues I want to talk about that you pointed out now. The flipping of the signs and the banners and all that. Sometimes people don't know that we don't allow some of these banners, but we also are very business friendly as a community. So we do have the ability to apply for like grand opening permits.
Yes.
So there is a permit that you can apply for that allows you to put up a grand opening sign for 60 days.
Yes.
Right? It's 60 days?
It would be 30.
Oh, 30 days. Okay, 30 days. So maybe something to look at.
Absolutely.
Because 30 days is sometimes, you may need a little bit longer than that. But we do have the ability and the pathway for people or for business owners to put up these grand opening signs if you're opening up a business. And they can even apply for it if they're maybe doing like a re-grand opening because maybe they
Sure.
changed ownership.
New
stuff.
management.
New management.
Yeah, there are other criteria, not just brand new business in a new
Right.
location. Yeah, it
Right.
could be something like that.
Right. So, and what's the process for a business owner in that case? They can go,
They go
it's easy.
through the planning and zoning department.
Okay.
And then they have a person that's dedicated to reviewing the grand opening banner application. You have to submit a photo, dimensions, it can't exceed certain sizes, can't be a huge balloon, it's gotta
Right.
be, it's your standard banner.
Right.
And then it's approved, so when our officers see it.
Right, they
We
don't-
have great communication internally, they let us know when a grand opening banner has been approved, so our officers won't bother the business.
Yeah, awesome, good. And there's another one there that I wanted to talk about and touch on that we approved recently, and we did an extension to allow for people to come to compliance without having to pay fines, which is a big one that we dealt with for a long time, which is the
Yeah.
extension of pavers or
Yes.
the
Driveways.
amplification of driveways without a permit. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this a little bit, which I've gotten a lot of them. People were thankful that we had come up with some type of solution to this issue. We know parking is a problem throughout the city and in certain areas of the community. It is something that we are addressing, and we understand the inconvenience and that vehicles, households have more vehicles sometimes than people. And so talk to me a little bit about, or explain to our residents, because you're going to explain it better than I will, what we did as far as how you can apply for a permit if you weren't in compliance, what is the grace period that we've given, and how people can take advantage of the new ordinance that will allow them to expand their driveway, but the right way.
Yes. So it is a very big issue, and it's for a whole host of reasons. And again, this is not just a Doral issue, or this is a national issue. There's just
Yeah.
not enough parking.
Yeah.
However, expanding your driveway, believe it or not, a lot of people don't even think about this.
I know.
Can lead to excess flooding.
I know.
Because
Yeah.
now there's less green space, there's less grass to absorb the rainwater.
Right.
And that leads to just a lot more water entering our storm drain
Right.
system, which creates flooding.
Right.
So you don't even
There's only so much
think about that.
capacity that our systems can absorb.
Definitely. So that's why it's important for the city to also have regulations, and that you can't just put from property line to property line nothing but concrete or pavers.
We also don't want to become just all concrete.
Exactly.
It's important to have green space and green area for not only the environmental purposes, but also
Just aesthetics.
Aesthetically,
as well.
right.
Yeah, it looks nice. It's great to have grass and.
Yeah.
But we recognized what was going on here. There's
Right.
an issue. People have the desire to also have room for a third car,
Right.
and I think the city did its due diligence in trying to find a good balance to still maintain green space, but still allow people to have that third car in there.
Right.
So those specifications, and it's on a property by property basis.
Right.
They're all in our ordinance, and people can go online to the City of Doral website, and there's a link in the Planning and Zoning Department as well, showing what those design specs are. So for anyone that's interested, and obviously we're here,
Right.
Planning and Zoning is here.
And
here
we're
to
gonna talk
answer any
about that
questions.
in a little bit.
Definitely. But the City Council, Mayor and City Council also recognized that there was a need for this. So we put together a waiver to waive those properties that have expanded their driveways without a permit. That's a no-no,
Right.
but there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there, and those jobs can be done in a day.
Right.
So we can't even catch them. They're too fast to
Mm-hmm.
be able to observe it and stop it. So with that in mind, there's a grace period until December 31st of this year
Right.
for anyone, regardless of whether you did so without a permit, or you want to now expand your driveway
Right, you can
with
do
a
it.
permit. Everyone needs a permit, because
Yeah.
that's number
But we
one.
want to encourage you to come get a permit and do it the right
Absolutely.
way.
Yes, this doesn't give people permission
To
to
do it
expand
with-
your driveway without a permit.
Right.
You need a permit, but now there's no penalty fee. There's no double permit fee. So
Right.
the Florida Building Code specifies that if you do construction work without a permit, now you have to pay
Double.
double. Yeah, so a permit that might have cost $200 now costs you $400 plus a $100 penalty. So now
Right.
that $200 permit will cost you $500.
Right.
So you need a permit, but you won't get charged double, and there's no $100 penalty fee.
Right.
We just want people to comply. And,
Right.
and that's really the name of the game at the end of the day. We want people to follow the rules. We want them to do the right thing.
Right.
And I think the city did a really good job in that.
And another reason why, you know, I try and educate again and inform people as much as I can in these aspects. I'm not advocating one way or another for things, but I think it's important for people to get informed. The purpose of getting a permit for things, it's not just because we want to charge you or know what you're doing. A lot of times it's protect the property owner, because that requires you to have a licensed contractor. If the contractor runs on you or anything like that, there is insurances and things that will protect the property owner. Plus, doing things the right way also protects you for life and safety reasons and things like that. So there is a purpose behind it, other than just the City of Doral wants to charge me to to get a permit to change, I don't know, whatever it is. It's not necessarily that. It's that there is a process that protects the consumer too. And so that's really, I think, an important aspect of having people understand the purpose of building, the purpose of code compliance, the purpose of planning and zoning, and all the different departments that really encompass the services that we provide the city. So with that in mind, and also wrapping up, I want to talk about two things very quickly. Mayor Citizens Academy. I think it's a great program. This was my first time speaking to the class as mayor, and that was a lot of fun. I encourage people to come and take the class. It's free. And it really gives you a good insight as to the behind the scenes in government, and particularly here in the City of Doral, all the effort that's put in from our incredible team and directors and staff and employees, as well as understanding just how government works. So talk to me a little bit about Mayor Citizens Academy. Where can people find the information? How can they sign up? When's the next one? And how many weeks is it?
It is 8 weeks.
8 weeks, once a week,
8
on
weeks,
Tuesdays.
once a week it's usually in the beginning of the year, February to 8 weeks worth.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic program. Code Compliance has been putting this together since it started, and I think we've done 13 years already.
Yeah.
13 years of the Mayor's Academy, and it's a great turnout. If I can be 100% honest with you, this last one, which was your first one, had the biggest crowd and enrollment that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of this since it was in its second or third year.
Yeah.
So
It was
that's-
great. We had
yeah.
great people. It was a nice group.
Yeah, and people learn, and it's people from all
Yeah.
walks of life in the community.
Some of them are not even residents. I met a couple that are just business owners and
Correct.
wanted to really understand how Doral functioned, how they could get more involved. So we do see a lot of residents, but sometimes we also see business owners. So it's not just for residents. You can also just be a business owner. Students,
Yep.
I recommend students sign up if you have an interest in government. Great way to see how the operation is. Sometimes people think they have an interest in government, want to be on the political side, but really what they want to be is on the administrative side.
Right, yeah.
So it's a great way to see it.
Definitely. And, it really is a great program. They get to meet the directors.
Yes.
It's something that we give a lot of kudos to our directors as well, because they're taking time out of their day as well, along with the residents. It's a lot of
Time away
commitment
from
the
family,
residents.
because they come at night. They stay after work and they do these presentations. But it's a great way to engage with the community.
Yeah, and it's good to be a part of a program where people they're like-minded, because they're there for a reason. No one is forcing anyone to come to this.
No, yeah.
And I don't want to say it's the best part, but it's probably the best part. There's free dinner for everyone as well.
Come on, that's not the best part,
Yeah.
but it is a nice little perk.
Yeah, but
And
those-
we're really appreciative of those businesses, because they sponsor those dinners. So we're really appreciative of our
Yes.
business community that participates in the Mayor Citizens Academy dinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I very much appreciate everything that you do, your department, putting together the Keep Doral Beautiful, the Mayor Citizens Academy. They're great benefits to the community. We want to continue to support these initiatives. Anything else you want to share that you think that the community should know? Anything you're working on, or that maybe I forgot that we should
Sure. Yeah.
educate on?
Yeah. So I think the main thing that the residents need to keep in mind is that we're here. The Code Compliance Department, we're here to help out the community. Even if it's something that is not anything that the City of Doral, it falls under our purview, we'll make sure that it gets to the right party.
Right.
So if there's an issue that maybe Miami-Dade County Water and Sewer has to take care of, you can guarantee that we're gonna get your message to the right party.
Right.
But most of the time, it's something that we're going to go ahead and resolve. Well, at the very least, look into to see if there's anything that we can do to improve the quality of life for the person that's reporting a violation. And it's something that I've heard you say as well, but it's something that I wholeheartedly believe. I hear all the complaints. When someone submits a 311, I get that. So I'm bombarded with complaints all the time, but it's still not something that I'm just, it's not a big deal. Because for that person that's taking time out of their day.
Biggest problem they may have, or it's the biggest worry they may have. And
it's a big deal for them and for the city to take ownership the way that we do. I think that does show a lot of, it sends a message to the residents. We're here to help out, no matter how petty you might think it is. It's not. We don't take it. How small or
how big it is. We're going to address every issue, as small as big, with the same concern. And that's something I always talk about. I tell my team all the time, I'm like, listen, we get an email, well, we may think it's the smallest issue, the littlest issue, to that person may be their biggest issue. And so we're going to address it just like if it was the biggest issue that we saw that day. It's hard, and it's really, people ask me all the time, what's the hardest part of your job? I'm like, not losing sight of that, because it can get, you kind of get wrapped up sometimes in the minutia of things, and in politics particularly, you get caught up in the politics of it, and it's like I can't lose sight of what we're doing it for and who we're doing it for and why. And so even our team, that's an important message to always try and remind us. Actually, I got something on my phone today. It was funny. It says, remember you prayed to be in the place you were today 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, okay, I needed that message. Like, remember that this is where I wanted to be. So be grateful that we're in this position. And in a position like yours, I can only imagine you're getting all the complaints all the time. The other day also it's just great to share these stories, but the other day I got a message from a resident congratulating the city with the parking enforcement. They're like, now I go and I actually find parking in downtown Doral. And it's great. It took us a little bit to understand, and me particularly, I was not happy with the charging of parking, and it took me a little bit to come to terms with that. We needed to create some enforcement to be able to provide a service, right? But it's not what residents want to hear sometimes. And I understand it. It's hard to kind of get used to something new, and we feel like we're being taxed more, and that's not necessarily always the initial reasons why we do things. But if there's no enforcement, or there's no way to manage something, then we're really not providing a service, period. So I had someone send a very nice email saying, that they were very happy with the way things were. And I shared it with the entire team, because sometimes we don't hear the good parts, right? We hear the complaints. And it's hard in a position like yours where you're always hearing the complaints and you don't hear the praises. But your department is absolutely very necessary. It's a great service to the community. I'm grateful for the work that you guys do and for taking on the responsibility to deal with some of those complaints. So just to wrap it up, and I want to thank you for being on and being open and willing to educate our community and take part in this. This is really just a place where people get to kind of learn a little bit more, similar to the Mayor Citizens Academy. They learn it here in 30 minutes, maybe something they didn't know. And we hope that it enriches their ability to be better residents in our community, better citizens, better activists. So tell us where somebody can reach your department if they have a complaint. If they see something, we also have our application, which I'm going to be doing something soon about teaching or educating about our application, because it is a great tool as well for people to communicate with our departments. So if somebody wants to reach code compliance, is there a phone number that they can reach code compliance at?
They can just call 305-593-6680, and that's our department main line. Somebody's going to pick up. We have a great track record in picking up the phone.
Is that 9 to 5? Or is
that is 7 to 5.
7 to 5. What about weekends? If somebody has a complaint on a weekend, somebody sees somebody doing work without a permit, or sees, we've gotten this lately a bit because I'm copied in those emails from residents, is a resident that has maybe like a construction site going on and they're working outside of the construction hours.
Sure.
Where can they call when it's outside of the working hours?
So there's two ways that they can contact us. One is going to be through the 311 application, and the other one is to send an email to codecompliance@cityofdoral.com.
Okay.
When you send an email to that email address, I get it, my assistant director gets it, and our 2 field supervisors get it.
Okay.
And we're attached to our phones, doesn't matter. we're on call.
Yeah.
Somebody will answer it, and somebody will respond to it.
I want to say one more thing. We do have code compliance officers out at night and on the
Yes.
weekends.
Correct.
Can you give us some information on that too? Because I don't want people to think that our code compliance is only out there
during business hours?
right, during business hours. We
Sure.
are actually out there, making sure that the city is operating. So tell us a little bit about that real quick.
So we have a 7-day-a-week operation, Monday through Friday. We have officers from 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. So we have somebody working during those hours. Saturday, we're about to start a 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, but we also have officers in the morning on Saturday and Sunday from 7:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, awesome. Let me ask you a question, because actually I don't even know the answer to this. If somebody has a noise complaint, they call the police most of the time. Police goes out and they notify you guys, or you guys go out, depending?
So it depends on the time. If it's after 11 p.m., we don't have
Okay.
officers, and that's
Right.
that's a lot of times when that's
Those noise complaints come in.
Yeah, and also there might be some alcohol involved, and for
Probably
safety
safer.
reasons, correct.
Yeah.
The police department will go ahead and respond to it. However, we have a great system in place with the police department where we know of every single noise call that they go out to.
Okay.
And we have a way of tracking those as well, and
Okay.
we'll go after the fact.
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Edgar,
Great.
for
Thank
being
you.
with us. Thank you for helping once again and informing our residents, and again, for everything that you all do in our city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of In the City con Cristi, where we continue to meet all the incredible people that make up the greatest place to live, work, learn, and play. Doral, make sure you send us your recommendations of what do you want to see right here on the next episode of In the City con Cristi, where we're looking to educate our community, inform our community, and provide all the resources that make us a better place. Thank you.
Yeah.